Welcome to TMZ Live. Charles here.
I'm Alex Michelson from Fox 11 Los Angeles, filling in for Harvey.
Boy, you picked a slow news day to be here. There's absolutely nothing going on.
Yeah.
Wow. We have some big news on the whole Epstein. Well, it is about Epstein,
It's all connected.
Musk, Trump, Epstein, all of it, including some information about what exactly Elon Musk knows about the relationship between Epstein and President Trump. If he actually knows anything, we're going to have some details on that. But we got to start with Joe Rogan finding out about this feud. As it was happening in real time yesterday, Joe was recording his podcast with
the director of the FBI, who presumably knows a lot about the Epstein files.
Kash Patel is there talking to Joe Rogan at the moment that this all jumped off, when President Trump said that Elon was just upset because he cut the EV mandate. And then Elon started firing off all of his tweets, including the one about the Epstein files. So here is, as they're in the middle of doing the podcast, one of the producers explaining to them what's going on. Watch this reaction.
Since we were talking about fake news, this is going to come up because it's been going on since we've been recording here. Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat. Joe, you want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation between Elon
Have
and
a
Trump.
nice day, DJD. Someone should take his phone away.
They're going back and forth about different things. And
Yeah. Listen,
Well, he said he was disappointed in Elon.
yeah,
Yeah.
they told him to leave.
That's a crazy thing to say. How does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? I mean, does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump-Elon thing.
Boy, Patel wanted nothing to do with that conversation. He was like, I got to go back to D.C. I'm going to have to answer to the president.
And he's got a relationship with Elon Musk, too.
Right.
All these guys did. I mean, they were all so into being part of Elon's crew, and then all of a sudden now they can't be.
It's so funny because I think if anybody else had attacked the president besides Elon Musk, you would have seen everybody rushing to Donald Trump's defense. But it seemed very clear to me yesterday that people were prominent people on the right were trying to stay very much in the middle because nobody wants to cross Elon Musk, even if it means not supporting their boss, the president.
Because part of Elon's rant was the fact that if the Republicans who support this spending bill, he's gonna support the campaigns of people running against them. So, and he's got the money, and they all know that because he was the biggest Republican donor last year, and they know that he can follow through on that threat. So, yeah, everyone's walking a fine line right now in D.C. After this thing just blew up, and this bit about Epstein is when everything just went, as we said yesterday, that was the nuclear option, right? And you saw Joe Rogan's reaction.
But is it? Does Elon Musk actually have the goods? Because he didn't exactly explain how he's connected to Epstein. We know that Trump and Epstein were friends.
We've all seen the NBC video from 1992.
They were buddies. He was partying with him, all the rest of that. So that's not a real shock. But does Elon Musk have specific evidence of Donald Trump engaged in some way with somebody underage? And if so, why hasn't he put that out?
Right.
Yeah, we may have some insight here. So we have since spoken to a guy named David Shane, who was an advisor to Epstein, to Jeffrey Epstein, and was actually his defense attorney for a period of time before Epstein died in August of 2019. And Shane says that he specifically asked Jeffrey whether or not he had any sort of dirt on Donald Trump, because look, the guy's behind bars, Epstein is at that point. And if he had something on the president, that could have possibly been something that could have gotten him free. It would be a lot of, a massive piece of leverage. And Shane says that, again, no, Jeffrey Epstein told him there was nothing incriminating or compromising on Donald Trump.
Elon, I think, notably, has not been firing off any personal attacks against the president today. In fact, he's been posting a lot of memes and sort of joking about the world's reaction to what happened yesterday.
Bill Ackman tweeted out, I support both of them. They should make peace for the benefit of our great country. Elon Musk saying, you're not wrong. Maybe.
I just don't know how you come back from what he said throwing out this wild allegation about
But
Epstein.
Trump tends to bring people back into his orbit once they're helpful to him again. I mean, that's also sort of been Trump's playbook.
Yeah. Hey, his vice president compared him to Hitler, and now he's the vice president, right?
That is an excellent point, Mike. That is an excellent point. So maybe there is hope. I don't know. I just think that there are some lines that get crossed and you can't come back. But like you said, it has been his in his playbook to go back. There was one thing this morning at the White House that, again, I felt like the president sounded like a really upset ex. He was like, it's going to be a while before I talk to him. The White House also said that red Tesla that they purchased, remember when they had the sale out on the
car commercial sponsored by the federal government,
and
which would have been a huge deal if anybody else did it, but seemed to just be okay because Trump did it?
Yeah, that car was still parked in a White House lot yesterday when everything blew up, but they said, we're getting rid of it. So can Elon pull out of this? Does he want to? There's some indication, as you said, that he does want to patch things up. So what was behind this blow up? What's going on in the mind of Elon Musk, someone who has researched him vastly for I don't know how long, but Bez Sadiki has written this book, Hubris Maximus, The Shattering of Elon Musk. And it is eerie timing. The book just came out.
Yeah, he's a reporter with the Washington Post.
He is a reporter of the Washington Post, and he is joining us right now. Fez, welcome to TMZ Live. How you doing?
Great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you note the timing. This relationship went down in flames quite spectacularly and in a maybe different way than we all could have imagined. But I think everyone expected this was not expected to last.
Yeah, I mean, Fez, a lot of people have said that even during the campaign, or like they're so buddy-buddy, but they're both alphas. At some point, this is going to go bad. And you write about that in your book. In fact, you said it was inevitable. But did you have any idea it would go down the way it did? I mean, I was just wondering what was going through Elon's mind yesterday. Is this his? Because for a moment I thought, all right, he's just trolling Trump. But then it just took a turn where it felt like he's angry. He's really angry and wants to hurt the president as much as he can. Is this a pattern with him, something he does?
Yeah, that escalation definitely follows a pattern. And something that really struck me about actually Joe Rogan's comment, the take away the phone. I mean, that's been a persistent theme among, Tesla investors over the years. I talked to a Tesla investor yesterday who had just said the same thing, like somebody take the phone away from him. And the fact that people around Elon still have not managed to get control over this. I mean, when Elon was in a feud with the SEC, there was a requirement issued from the courts that he have a Twitter sitter, somebody to monitor his potentially market-moving tweets during the middle of negotiations over the Inflation Reduction Act. So anyone who thinks there's some kind of 4D chess here or that Elon's playing some kind of long game, no, this is the pattern. This is how it goes.
And of course, that's also been the pattern with Donald Trump. For people for years have said, can't somebody take away his phone? But you've got the president of the United States, the most powerful guy on the planet, and you've got the richest guy on the planet who also owns X. So it's his platform too. So who's going to take him off of that platform when he's the guy who owns it? And I know you've also talked with some Tesla folks who are really upset about what he's doing to the company.
Yeah, I mean, these are the folks who are in the lurch. I keep saying it's like in the Batman movie, the people who are on the bridge hanging over the water. These are the Tesla folks who have just been in the lurch, like where he allied himself with Trump. It benefited the company. Then there was all the backlash against the company. Then he had to return to the company. And in returning to the company, he has engaged in a feud with the president that has caused the stock to lose 15% of its value. So you have to imagine these folks are quite frustrated and they want this to come to any kind of conclusion.
Do you think, Fez, that it's sort of ironic that this happened? He leaves his post as an advisor on Friday, and I'm sure Tesla investors are going, okay, good, get him out of the politics. Now we're going to get back to just doing business and everything's going to be fine. And then 2 days later, it is,
Yeah,
they're
it
at
couldn't just
DEF CON.
go exactly. It couldn't just go smoothly, right? He couldn't just bite his tongue for a little bit longer. And if truly he is standing by the principle that he wants the deficit to be cut, and his principled position is that it doesn't matter if it affects the fortunes of his company. He wants to cut the deficit. That's one thing. But then when he's lobbing the type of allegation that he's lobbing at the president, then how do you make sense of that? Was he standing by the president and just holding on to that allegation?
How important are these government contracts and
For
subsidies
SpaceX, yeah.
for SpaceX, for Tesla, for all of Musk's companies?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. I mean, SpaceX is not a public company, and so much of its business is, this space flight, right? And so it's not just Starlink, which is like the internet access, but it's shuttling people and goods to and between the International Space Station. And then for Tesla's entire story of profitability hinges on its ability to draw people in with the EV credit, but also sell regulatory credits to automakers who are not meeting their emissions targets. So both of Musk's major companies and his entire empire rests on government help in some way.
Real quickly, your gut instinct after studying him so closely, do you think Trump and Musk get back together?
I see how they are people who can have short memories, and this is not my professional opinion. I'm somebody who I like rap music, and I think about the Drake and Kendrick thing, and I'm like, I'm always like, how do they get back from that accusation? So I don't know, but I know that these are two people who have the ability to have a short memory when it might serve them well.
Way to bring that into TMZ Live, the right place to make that analogy.
Well, look, the Drake and Kendrick metaphor is very akin. It's the same sort of accusation, right? So,
A minor.
Yeah, A minor. Fez, thanks so much for being with us. Again, title of the book, Hubris Maximus, The Shattering of Elon Musk. Boy, the serendipity for you, Fez, is pretty amazing. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I think that everyone in D.C. thinks they're going to get back together. And that's the reason nobody is saying anything. It's like you have a friend when there's a breakup.
Yeah, you don't want to talk bad about them, because then when they get back together, then they'll hold it against you.
Same thing. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, new testimony in the Diddy trial from Jane and what she has to say about freak-offs, slightly different from Cassie's testimony. Why Diddy was still engaging in freak-offs after the raids on his homes. Well, the Diddy trial rolling on with testimony from his former girlfriend, who's testifying under the pseudonym Jane. And Jane had a lot to say on the stand today about their sex life and about participating in freak-offs. Does she get to the point where she is saying that she felt forced into this life? We're going to get to that. But one of the really shocking things she testified about was about what very well may have been the last freak-off.
The timing.
That Diddy participated in. It certainly was, she said, the last one that she participated in. And what's interesting about this is Jane says it happened not in a hotel, as we've heard all the others, but it happened at Diddy's home in Miami on Star Island. And maybe it had to happen there because at this point, the raids had happened 5 months earlier.
So in March, we had these raids.
Right.
And Fox 11 cameras were above for that.
Yep, this was here in LA.
In LA, we had a raid in Miami as well.
At the Star Island mansion.
And then in August, according to Jane's testimony, there's a freak-off at Star Island.
In the home where the raid
had already happened. So he knew that the feds were very concerned about this whole thing and did it anyway.
And probably knew that his arrest was imminent. This is a month before his arrest, and we know that the feds were in contact with his attorneys. He even went to New York expecting to be arrested. So there was some anticipation on his part, but it is mind-boggling that a month before his arrest, he's still talking about.
But in his mind,
and planning,
he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, at first blush, it seems like Diddy having a freak-off, according to this testimony, just weeks before he's arrested in New York, might seem like he's incorrigible, like he just was getting in one last fling before he went away. But it could also cut that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. This could help Diddy's case that this is just his lifestyle. He doesn't know what the feds were looking into, but having consensual group sex is not a crime, and he was just going about his business. He might also say he was in the throes of addiction and things like that, but I can actually see this testimony helping him in some odd way.
I would imagine that that's on cross-examination. That's what his attorneys are going to bring up, and that, the bigger thing for them is going to be whether or not she was forced into this, and that's what the prosecution's got to make clear here in her testimony.
And an interesting nugget: she apparently was picking out who she wanted to have sex with and was reaching out to them.
So there's at least one guy, this dude named Sly. She and Diddy actually saw him in a pornographic movie, and because Jane said she wanted to have like some sort of agency over who she was sleeping with, she said, I really want to get with that guy. So she DM'd him. They had a phone conversation where she and Diddy were on one end and Sly was on the other. And they ended up actually flying him from Atlanta to New York and Atlanta to LA, which is, again, like that's moving someone across state lines. And then she says that they paid him after a sexual experience that he had. So kind of goes to one of the charges that they're looking into.
That's the Mann Act right there.
That's the Mann Act. I mean, that's testimony of interstate transport for the purposes of sex and the exchange of money. She says that he was paid around $4,000 for these escapades. Diddy reimbursed her. That's going to help prove up that charge, which has always been the simplest one in this case, because Diddy's not really running away from the fact that he often ordered sexual company of this sort.
What's interesting about her testimony about choosing some of the sexual partners that she wanted to have agency over that. The forcible part, and I felt like with Cassie, they really did a really good job of her talking about feeling like this was not the life she wanted anymore, and it was fear that kept her in it, and that's the coercion to stay in it. I haven't really heard that really with Jane yet, and I would imagine the defense is going to use the fact that she said, look, I got to choose my partners.
But there was an incident because Jane talked about the fact that she was most of the time high on drugs, often on ecstasy, but she was sober one night. And after having sex with two guys sober, she went into the bathroom to throw up, and then Diddy walks in. What happens next?
Diddy walks in, and he's like, well, I'm so glad you threw up and you feel better, because the third guy's here, and we got to get back to this, basically.
I think that gets you closer.
Starts to get close, yeah.
It is getting closer. I still think a lot of this testimony seems like a girlfriend trying to please her boyfriend, and some of the Cassie testimony felt that way, but when you got to the physical violence, threatening to leak sex videos on that flight and then asking for a freak off after, that is a clearer nexus to me than her thinking, I really am into Diddy and I want to please him. So some of this interior thoughts that she had, the defense is going to look into how much of that was communicated to Diddy so that you can say he was forcing it over her objection.
Right, because if it's just her talking about what she thought, it's always going to come back to what did Diddy know. And the defense used that line when they were cross-examining Cassie as well. Right now, Jane is still on the stand, is expected to be all day, and then maybe on Monday they get to cross-examination, but they gotta, this is, and there's nothing from her that is touched on Rico. And not that every witness has to touch every single count against him, but everyone is still saying, where is the Rico evidence? Doesn't seem like it's gonna come from Jane at this point.
Hi, I'm Darian from Arlington, Virginia. And this just kind of shows that the way Diddy uses freak-offs is the way that we use like mindful over matter techniques. Diddy has a clear addiction, but also you have to be a little bit more self-aware and recognize what you're going to be going through. And I just think that level of perception, he just clearly does not have that is still participating in those freak-offs so close after getting raided.
You got to imagine that was a moment they were like, what? In August?
Well, it doesn't really give you a sense that he's got any sort of remorse at all. Obviously, he thinks what he's doing maybe wasn't bad, but if you were to let him off where he's back on the streets again, would he continue this sort of behavior again?
Right. That's the question. All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, the collateral damage in President Trump's war, not with Elon Musk, but with Harvard.
Yeah.
There is a new mandate down that they're not going to be able to get international visas for students. And if you are a student who's already enrolled, guess what? you're getting the boot. When we come back, we're going to be joined by one of those students who's now got to look for a new school.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall. Yeah.
It's TMZ.
Well, President Trump has battles going on all sorts of fronts, right? We talked about Elon Musk. Not to be overshadowed is the ongoing battle with Harvard, with a lot of students' futures and lives, educational lives hanging in the balance here. The announcement earlier this week that the administration was going to block Harvard from issuing student visas to any international students, which would complete, by the way, 27% of Harvard's student body are international students.
Right.
So it would have a huge impact on the university. It is also impacting if it would go through, and right now a judge has put a halt on this right now. So we will see basically who has better lawyers, Harvard or the Trump administration. But it would also affect students who are currently enrolled, like our next guest. Fangju Zhang is getting his master's at Harvard. He has one semester left. And so if this goes through, he's going to have to come up with a different plan. There are so many students just like him. So Fangju, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hi, Alex and Charles. Thanks for having me.
So what are you doing?
Yeah, what's the backup plan? Because I know you're just waiting like everybody else to see how this shakes out. What's the plan?
Yeah, we've been discussing our backup plans within the community for the last week and a half now. We thought things were quieting down as of a few days ago, but then the administration seemed to have launched the second round of actions against Harvard just a couple days ago. And that was also quite unexpected because this time a different legal authority was invoked. And, at first we thought it was more difficult to defend because instead of targeting Harvard, it was targeting the students, ourselves for not being able to enter the country if we were on Harvard visa. So yeah, we've been discussing a lot of different plans. For instance, we could take the semester online, which kind of happened during the COVID era, or we could request a leave of absence and come back really once the conflict between Harvard and the administration has been fully resolved. Or a number of students actually have already looked at transfer options to universities in Hong Kong and other places. Yeah, there are definitely a few options available, but none of them is truly ideal.
So you're a Chinese student, and part of what the administration is arguing is that there's a potential national security threat, that Chinese students could essentially be spies in the United States, gathering information for the Chinese government, so we can't trust having them here without vetting them better. What's your response to that argument, and are you a Chinese spy?
That's definitely a very disheartening claim to hear. I mean, a lot of Chinese students worked very, very hard to earn their spot at Harvard University or other universities in the US, myself included. I've been looking up to these institutions for a long time. And yeah, we knew how competitive it was to get in, and we did a lot of work, right? Once we're on campus, we tried to contribute as much as we can, including being course assistants. I served as a teaching fellow. I served as the vice president of student government at Kennedy School, helping U.S. students and international students on various issues.
So you're not a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things that that we should be doing, right? As a member of the community. Yeah, I mean, some students have political affiliations. I would say is a very small number, but in China, especially when you're in college, you might be offered, the opportunity to join the political party because you're doing well academically. This is more of a way to advance your career. Most people don't have the political ambition to to be involved in the party politically. So I think that sweeping accusation is definitely very very disheartening to hear. And to answer your question directly, I'm not a Chinese spy. I don't think people that I know that I'm aware of are doing anything beyond what a law-abiding student should be doing.
Fangju, thank you so much for being with us. And like you said, you're involved in so much there at Harvard. I know you co-founded the Crimson Education, which is really helping other students find their path in education and in tech. So thank you so much for being with us, and we wish you the best in this going forward. To be one semester away, man, you're almost there. Just hang in there.
I will. Thank you so much, Charles and Alex. We'll keep you posted.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Fangju. Wow, just to have your whole life, you think you're like, all right, I'm almost there. I'm going to get started, and now.
And a reminder that a lot of this stuff sometimes feels like reality TV, but it's not.
Actually,
and there's real lives that are impacted in a huge way, not only here in the U.S., but around the world.
Yes. All right. When we come back, speaking of reality TV, there is a big battle brewing at Bravo, a $20 million lawsuit filed by one of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. We will tell you why Britt Eady feels she was done dirty and why her enemy on the show, Kenya, may be coming back.
Just as important a legal battle.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. Real Housewives of Atlanta in the middle of a shakeup. While it seems like Kenya Moore is about to come back after a very tumultuous season where she got suspended, they are now at Bravo also dealing with a $20 million lawsuit filed by Britt Eady, who was
probably not coming back.
No. In fact, the first sign of trouble was the fact that they recorded their reunion episode yesterday, and Britt was a no-show. So we knew that something was brewing. Usually means that that person is not coming back for the next season. Well, Britt dropped the bombshell this morning with this $20 million lawsuit, alleging that she was defamed and that she suffered sexual harassment while shooting the show. So mind you, she's only been on one season. This was her first season.
That could be enough time to be defamed and sexually harassed, potentially.
It could be.
So it has to do with this video and this poster that
Kenya ended up showing.
That Kenya shows showing somebody performing oral sex.
The way it was presented on the show and the way Kenya was presenting it was that it was Britt. Now, that was the way it went on the show, and in fact, that is why Kenya was suspended. Because she showed this. But Britt says that isn't her.
It wasn't me, as Shaggy would say.
She's pulling a Shaggy.
Yeah.
You know, Charles, Bravo never apologized or even did a correction. You know, they just,
Just aired the episode.
Yeah, they just aired the episode and they made it seem like it was her. I don't blame Britt for bringing a lawsuit. She should because Bravo never corrected.
Now, what's interesting about that, Jamie, is now she's filed this lawsuit. She is going to have to prove, and as you saw, that's the way it was presented on the show. So nobody could really, viewers certainly couldn't see what was going on there. It was sexually explicit, so they couldn't show it. But nobody.
It was blurred like that on the show.
Yeah, that was how it was.
I got it.
So no. Viewers did not see the face, but certainly everyone who was in the salon that day could see the face. Not having seen it myself, I can't tell how closely the person in the poster looks to Britt Eady, but she's going to have to prove that this was done with some malice. Meanwhile, she filed that lawsuit this morning. Late yesterday, Kenya posted an apology to the viewers, to Bravo, even to Britt, for having done that. And then at the end of her apology said, "I'll see you soon back on Bravo." So that makes it sound like she is coming back to Real Housewives while Britt is on the way out and, looking for justice, a very expensive
and a payday.
Yes.
Hi, I'm T-Rex from Gulf Shores, Alabama, and I want to comment on the Real Housewives. It is unfortunate that Britt had to face those allegations as far as the oral posters that was being posted, but Kenya Moore will be making a return back to the show and for her encore performance, and Bravo better be ready because there's nothing says drama like them being on the show, and I hope Britt does return to be able to defend herself against Kenya Moore.
Yeah, I mean, look, the viewers, I'm just basing it on reactions in a room here. The viewers want both women to be back on the show because that was the way it was described to me, the only heat this season.
It's hard to see Bravo inviting her back if they're the subject of a $20 million lawsuit, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what their lawyers are like, but I know most lawyers would not encourage that.
It would seem like a bad move. All right, moving on to Taylor Swift being dethroned.
She's not the queen of something, finally.
I know. When was the last time we heard of Taylor being dethroned in anything? She's usually taking the crown and setting all sorts of records, but she is no longer the youngest self-made female billionaire. That title now goes to Lucy Guo, who is an AI entrepreneur, and at just 30, how much is she worth? How many billions of dollars?
More than either one of us.
More. Well, yes. At just 30, I think it was $1.5 billion she is worth. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Lucy is a Swiftie.
She loves it.
Yeah, so I actually spoke to Lucy, and she told me that she met Taylor just last year at Coachella, and there's a little fan video of her meeting Taylor, and it's the first person she ever fangirled over. Keep in mind, she is a billionaire. She's been in the circles where you meet a lot of celebrities, but she is a Taylor Swift fan. So the fact that she is kind of being put in the same category as Taylor Swift, I mean, just their names together in the same sentence, she is just floored. But she also predicts that she'll probably be dethroned sometime soon by another, successful billionaire woman. And she's okay with that. She said, look, it's amazing that we're in the time where other women can be billionaires as well. And here we are competing against each other, but it's all in good fun. And she loves Taylor Swift.
And does Taylor still have more money?
I think,
I think she probably does, but Taylor did just buy her masters, which probably cost a pretty penny, but yeah, I think Taylor is doing just fine.
Yeah, I think they're both going to be just fine. And Lucy can now afford to go to as many Taylor concerts as she wants and overpay for the tickets, like most fans do. All right, so when we come back, speaking of overpaying, guess who's getting into the sports business? Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, who's already had enormous success by numbers that will blow your mind. But now they're getting into the sailing business.
When you say sports business, you don't immediately think sailing.
There is crazy money in this that I had no idea about. We're going to follow that money with Damon John when we come back. We say this all the time, that Hollywood just sticks to the formula, right? That's why you get all these sequels. That's why you get, once they find something that works, they just stick with it. Well, Hollywood actors who decide that they want to get into sports, not as an athlete themselves, but by owning a team, has become the new thing. And yes, because they watched Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have huge success when they bought Wrexham Football Club and in the Championship League over in UK. So now Hugh Jackman wants to get in on it, and he and Ryan Reynolds have paired up to buy a sailing team, which I wouldn't think has nearly the upside of a soccer team, but I'm discovering that maybe there's a lot of money in sailing that I did not know about. Who else is buying it? The Kelsey brothers are buying teams. Is this actually a good use of their money, or is this just a vanity thing? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. No, Harvey's calling. He can wait. Damon, we're going to follow the money with our buddy Damon John. Damon, what's going on, man? Are you buying a team?
I got to tell you, I have missed this boat, for the lack of a better word. When you just put up that sailing stuff, when you looked on it, it was like Oracle and Rolex with some of the sponsors. And I never really had understood this, but this fractional ownership of teams is really big and it's extremely profitable. I was offered part of the Miami soccer team that came in. I've been offered part of Women's League soccer. I've been offered part of many, many teams. I'm actually thinking about going in with my buddy Clinton Sparks on the Global Gaming League. And this is actually a very good thing to do, not only from a vanity standpoint. So let me share this with you. You know, you have a bunch of group of people, you like to brag about whose team is winning. But when you talked about Ryan Reynolds, they bought that team in 2020, I think, for $2.5 million. It's now $475 million. That is how much it's worth today.
Largely because of them. I mean, think about the way that they promoted that team and got that out in the consciousness. Clearly was very helpful.
When you're a team owner, you're right? They got it out of the consciousness. They use their intellectual property to get it out. But you know what it does? It creates community. It brought a lot of people over to Wrexham. It brought sponsors in there. Hey, Ryan, you know, you're in your next movie. I can't sponsor that. What can I sponsor to be part of you? You can sponsor the team. It's about families coming together, merchandising. I gotta tell you, you know, Cuban is no longer on this show. His last days were a couple of days ago, right? And I was on a stage speaking, and I got a little misty, like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss Cuban. And I got really emotional. And then I said to myself, wait a minute, the man is in Dallas. He just got another $3.5 billion. I got to buy all the stuff he didn't buy on Shark Tank. What the hell am I crying about?
I mean, did you talk to Mark about, like, I mean, obviously, you know, owning the Mavericks turned out to be a great deal for him. And this can't always work out, right? It's not as simple as being a celeb and you slap your name on something.
It can't always work out. He had a lot of money and he bought it in 2000 for $285 million. He just sold only 72% for $3.5 billion. But during those years, he had a cash call of, hey, team not doing that well, another 20 million. Another 20 million. Every year, I used to say to him, man, why do you sit on the sidelines cursing out everybody and it's costing you $20, $30 million a year?
That's why he was cursing everybody out, because he's like, I'm spending all this money.
Well, it seems like the way to do it is like what Magic Johnson has done, right? He's won 9 titles as an owner, and these ownership groups recruit him because Magic's name brings with it so much. He gets a small piece, and then he's part of the ownership group.
That is such a powerful point that I didn't even consider. And when you think about these teams, now, by the way, let's talk about our consumer and follow the money. Maybe everybody doesn't have enough money for a team. That's what you're thinking. They're coming together as a bunch of people and buying it. Think about it. You know, when they bought that team, the Wrexham team for $2.5 million, could you and 20 or 30 of your friends had half of that money to invest in? But I do stupid things like watch the Ocho where there's teams on skipping rocks and juggling. I think you could probably own a team there, right?
I was thinking more like a little league team that I was going to sponsor just to start out with.
Well, maybe a little league team. You never know. With all these kids, some of these kids have more followers than TMZ, Damon John, and everybody can buy. Again, there's a lot around it. I think the celebrities are using their IP in the right way because they don't know where streaming and movies are going. And Mark Cuban has $3.5 billion, and I got to buy more stuff that he's not buying anymore.
All right, well, listen, Damon, you know, Cuban's got the $3.5 billion from the Mavericks, but he doesn't rock a Kango like you do.
No, he doesn't.
You know, I'm in New York. Guys, I rang the bell yesterday at the NASDAQ again. A little brown boy who used to break dance right outside of the NASDAQ is now ringing the bell. Or maybe I should invest in a hip-hop team. I mean, imagine if I had a piece of the Jabberwockies. Ooh, they've been playing forever in Vegas, right?
They have been. I think it's you should have got in years ago.
We want you to
I get my New York thing on, Kango hat, Cazell glasses, my buddy JoJo, Mr. Softy. It's all New York this week.
We want you to own the Knicks one day.
Well, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
he just made his heart skip a beat.
Yeah.
David, we'll see you next week, man. Good talking to you.
All right. Peace.
Boy, to own the Knicks.
They could use some new ownership.
You can't say that. You can't say that. Now, guess what? You just got banned from MSG. James Dolan's never letting you into MSG. He said it, not me. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, speaking of sports and big money, JayZ put a bundle on the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the NBA Finals. Guess what? His money just got a lot shorter when $1 million bets blow up in your face.
We don't know that. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Well, JayZ was watching the NBA Finals, no doubt, and was also probably very upset at the end of the game because he placed a $1 million bet at the Fanatics Sportsbook. He's good friends with Michael Rubin, so it makes sense he made the bet there. But his bet was not just for the Oklahoma City Thunder to win, but they have to win in 5 games. Do the math. He needs a miracle now,
well,
basically.
the Pacers won on that last-second shot by Tyrese Halliburton that we just showed you. So now the Thunder would need to win the next 4 games in a row to essentially sweep them for the rest of the way.
He's got big money on the line here.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're JayZ, though, I mean, one part of your bet is done. Now he just needs them to win 4 more. But the big thing here, obviously, is that I didn't even know.
That's the best spin possible.
Yeah, that's a gambler's spin. But I didn't know that Fanatics even had a sports book. JayZ's an investor for Fanatics. So regardless, he loses $1 million, is getting a ton of publicity. Ton of publicity for Fanatics Sportsbook.
That was his explanation to Beyonce last night. He's like, yeah, I know it seems like I'm about to lose $1 million, but
it's pretty brilliant.
It's good for
though.
business.
They leaked that information out there, and we're all talking about it. And now we're talking about that.
So just to be clear, now what has to happen? If they lose one more game, he's done.
And they're guaranteed to play at least 2 of those games back home in Indiana.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He might want to start hedging. Time to start hedging. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for JayZ.
Gamblers.
I think he's going to be okay.
Hey, I'm from Kansas City. That is definitely a bold move, but if you have $1 million to bet, you have $1 million to lose. I wish the best for him, and I think this is a great PR move financially for him.
And you've got $1 billion to lose.
So he can write off the loss? Is that what we're going to say?
But it's like for a regular person, it's like betting $100.
What else do you guys want to talk about?
Hey, it's Justin Littlechild calling from Wetaskiwin, Canada. I don't think Diddy thought a lot of these things that he did was going to see the light of day. You know, he just kept us seeing partying and having a good time. But I wonder if this is going to hurt Trump's decision on maybe pardoning him in the future.
Boy, I know Trump said he would consider it. If he's convicted, listen, so many more things have to happen before we even get to that point.
What Donald Trump is going to do.
Exactly.
I think that's still a very real possibility.
One more.
Hey, this is Lauren from Ohio. And about this Trump and Elon thing, I think Elon driving Trump into Epstein territory is headline worthy. But let's be real, Trump's entire brand is deflect and deny. It's not leadership, it's billionaire reality TV. And we are stuck rewatching the play runs, running back and back and back on social media.
So conservatives would say it's making America great again.
Yeah.
Depends on your perspective.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Paris Hilton, boy, she is busy this month for Pride. You're going to see how she is traveling in Paris style for her next gig. Paris Hilton, every year when Pride Month hits, she is busy DJing events all over the country. She was here last weekend in WeHo. And this weekend she's going to be in D.C. and she is flying with that jet always gets me, man. Her customized jet. She's flying to the gig with her pals Cara Delevingne and Rita Ora.
And they're all gay for Paris.
I love the shirts. Gay for Paris.
I saw her DJ at one event. She was really fun and she was good. And then she also brings a guy with a fan and a guy with a ring light that follow her around. So every selfie she takes with everybody is perfect.
Gotta have perfect
Brilliant.
lighting. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I need one of those around here. Yeah. 2 or 3 of them, actually. That's going to do it for us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
See you Monday.